Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of what did I call this thing? Oh yeah, Miner's 4x4 Garage and Adventure. I knew it was Miner's something or another. I remembered my name. Uh, anyway, so today I'm going to be playing around with. I got a little remote thing to start the camera now, so I don't have to walk over and poke it. So we're going to play around with some preliminary measurements on the gauge cluster. I've got a piece of cardboard here for some CAD work, and I've already marked center, both length and height, just to give me a reference point. Double check the diameter of my gauges and all that stuff, just so I didn't have to sit there and try to do math on camera. That's just embarrassing. Well, anyway, I'm going to go ahead, and I've got the tripod tipped back right now, so my head's not chopped off. But I'm going to go ahead and set you down, and we'll do some measurements and kind of roughly see what we can come up with here, at least placement. Do this gently. All right. So we've got our tack, and we've got our speedo that are both 3 3/8. So we need to, and I want to leave a 1/2 inch of space here in the middle between them. So see if we do that. I don't use this very often. These lines are throwing me off. Okay. So we want a 1/2 inch either side, or we want a 1/4 inch either side. So there's a 1/4 or a 1/2 inch gap. I don't know what the heck we want. I thought I was prepared to start this video. All right. So there's our line. That's going to be our gap between our gauges. And we may end up making a different template at some point. It depends on if I like what I end up with here. And if we do, that's fine. And if we don't, oh well. All right. So our gauges are 3 3/8. So let's see. 1/2 of 3 is 1 1/2. 1/2 of 3/8 is 3/16. So it'd be 1 11/16. We'll run with that. All right, so 1 11/16. Actually, what's the nearest? What would that be, like 1 5/8? I think. Yeah, I think we could probably just do 1 5/8. I think that'll land us a decent gap in the middle between the two, I think. Actually, you know what? I am not factoring in the true diameter of the bezel. I am running exclusively off. I hope that's not a preview of how well it's going to stay in the truck. Oh, it helps if you put it on the right way, dum-dum. Okay. Anyway, we're just going to take that off. I'd have to put some thread tape or something around that to get her to stay in. These are not high dollar gauges, and that's fine. Okay. So the true reading is about 3 3/4. So I think I actually want to move this line back a little bit, because let's see, between 3/8 and 3/4, that's what, a 1/2 inch, a little under a 1/2 inch, something like that. So I actually want to move this back a little bit. I think we are going to go a full 1/2 inch on either side. So this will take it back to a 1/2 inch here. This will take it back to a 1/2 inch here. And that will be beautiful. So we are not going to use those marks. Okay. So let's see, for the gauge to land in the right spot, so the half of the 3 3/8 is 1 11/16, which is still relevant because that's the size, that's the size hole that I need to drill. So we need to measure back 1 11/16, or no, we were just going to do 1 5/8, right? Yeah, let's just do 1 5. Screw it. We'll do 1 11/16. Why not? Okay. So there's that. From the, and then 1 and where's 11/16? Right there. Okay, so those are going to be the center mark for our speedo and this is going to make a lot more, well, to some of you it probably makes sense. This is going to look a lot better, obviously, once it's on a piece of aluminum and I'm getting it fitted into the dash. Right now it just kind of looks like a bunch of gibberish that doesn't make any sense to anybody. I couldn't find my compass. I've got an old beat to crap one that like for etching metal, but one side's it's not very sharp and it's kind of bent and it's probably mostly just garbage. Okay, so if that's the center, then okay, now we need to use the half of 3 3/4. So let's see. Half of 3 is 1 1/2. Half of 3/4 is 3/8. So 3/8. So 1 1/2 plus 3/8 would be. I was never very good at fractions. So 1 1/2 plus So that would be 1 7/8. Okay, so 1 7/8. So we need to measure back 1 7/8 from here, I think, if any of this is making any sense. So 1 7/8 back from the center of the speedometer. And I'm probably making this about 30,000 times more difficult than it needs to be. But I've never actually built my own gauge cluster before. So I'm just kind of winging it here. And if somebody finds what I'm doing interesting, fantastic. And if it's boring and you'd rather go slam your foot in a door, then that works too. But if you want to hang out, possibly learn something, at least the wrong way to do it, it depends on the angle you look at. That's close enough, honestly. Possibly learn something, then hang out. I'll hang out with you. That don't look right. Because if that's the center of the speedometer, that ain't right. What have I done here? So those aren't necessarily wrong. Let's see, 3 3/8. Do I have a hole saw that's even remotely close to that? Or a flap disc or something? Okay. Well, let's see. 3 3/8. This is 4-inch, which is kind of irrelevant, really, because, yeah, that goes beyond my center mark. Okay. So let's see. 3 3/4 at the largest point. So one and a half. Okay, so that's right. Let me see here. So from the center to there should be no. From here to there should be 3 3/8. Okay, so somehow, let's see, 1 1/4. I am not entirely sure how we got off here, because that's where I want the edge of the lip to land, which means if that's where I want the edge of the lip to land, then the center, which is 1 7/8, needs to be clear over here. Okay. And likewise, over here, okay, if that's where I want the lip to land, actually the lip could land right there. Okay, so if I want the lip to land right there, okay, so that's 1 7/8. And then we're going to erase that mark. And go from here. Okay, 1 7/8. All right, yeah, I don't have 2 marks on this side because I didn't mark it wrong on that. Well, I didn't mark it wrong that time. Okay. So if the face of the gauge is the 3 3/4, then if we use these, whoa. What in the giblets did I do there? What in the... Oh, wow. I way goofed up. I measured off the way wrong thing. Good grief, that would have been... See, and that's why I'm sitting down and making this template. So if I screw up, and there's probably people out there that are like, oh, it's not very hard. It doesn't take very much. Well, congratulations. Okay, so from that mark, And then from that mark. Okay, so from that mark is 1 7/8. Okay. Which means we're going to cross off that line. And then from this mark is actually a little further than 1 7/8. What did I do there? Flip it over so I can actually measure right. Okay, so from there, it's close. Okay. Honestly, it's close enough. Okay, now these marks that I was going to use for the side gauges are almost completely irrelevant. So now, so that's 4-inch, and that lands right about on that mark. And that's 4-inch, and that lands right about on that mark. Okay, which is good because the gauges are a little bit smaller than that. Okay, so this line is not being used. I could erase it, but I'd rather color on it. Okay. All right. I just crossed off the line I needed. Oh well. Well, and then I ended up using the inside lines anyway, so whatever. So use inside lines. This one and that one. Okay. This is not going to make sense to anybody other than me. All right, so there's our center marks for our tack and our speed up. We're good there. So now we need to come out at least 1 7/8 from here. And that's like, no, that's not even enough because that's not factoring in the actual diameter of the little gauges. So the actual diameter of these is 2 1/4. So half 2 1/4 is 1 1/8. So 1 1/8. All right. So this needs to come out, if that's the center of the tack, that needs to come out another 1 7/8. What's 1 7/8 plus 1 1/8? 2 3? Yeah. Because 7/8 is 8/8, so that would be 3. So this needs to come out 3 inches. Since that's a good even number, I think we're going to go on ahead and use. Does that measure a true inch? No. Okay, I think so. Probably. Maybe. We're going to find out. Okay, so we're going to put that right there. Okay, and then we're going to come out 1, 2, 3. So we'll put our mark there. We're going to make it little in case we screwed up. And then we're going to go here and go 1, 2, 3. Okay. So then, with the edge of the gauge being, what did I say, 1 7/8? With the edge of the gauge being right, oh, what the giblets? How did that not? Oh, at 1 7/8. Okay, that looks better. That looks better. So with the edge of the gauge, edge of the gauge being approximately there, okay, and then this one being approximately there. For some reason, I keep consistently measuring this side just a little bit off. If it's not like absolutely perfect, that's fine. Okay, so that's the edge of the Speedo. And I'm using a 4-inch disc, so that's not a perfect representation, and I'm obviously not like uber centering it up. Okay, so now we need to fill these lines out. Okay. And then figure out our, we'll just go ahead and go the whole length. We will go the distance. I can go the distance. Okay. So now, so if that's the edge of the Speedo, so we're not going to do anything because the radius is going to decrease, obviously, as we go up. So I really don't know that it matters too much how we space these as long as we do so evenly. So let's say go up an 1.5 inches. That'll be on that mark though. We're going to go up 1.5 inches. We're going to go down 1.5 inches. Inch and a half. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing over here. And I know some of you are probably sitting there thinking how easy this should be and all that. Well, let me tell you, I was no math scholar in school. I was pretty okay fine on the language arts, and of course you listen to me talk and you're like, yeah, right. I was pretty okay fine on the language arts and stuff like that, but I was never. Oh, I wish I would have remembered that the width of this was 1.5 inches. I could have just measured that right off of the square itself. I was never good at math. Better than some, I suppose. But it was never my strong suit. All right, where you at? There it is. Okay. Realize the end of this piece of cardboard isn't like perfectly square, but it should be well within the realm of good enough. Okay, and like I said, this is going to look way cooler, like once it's actually on a piece of aluminum and not, okay, so I guess it doesn't really matter what goes where, but we'll do, we'll write it up here, oil, water, volts, and fuel. Okay, now just out of curiousnessosity, do I happen to have a 2-inch hole saw? I have a feeling I'm going to have like everything around it. That's 2 1/16. That's 1 3/4. No, it does not appear that I have just a straight up. It's 2 1/2, but that's still set up on that bushing spacer thing I had to make. Okay. Well, for the sake of not dragging this out any longer and, not just making you guys sit here and watch me look for tools, I think we're going to go on ahead and end it here. If you like the content, subscribe, like, follow, share, flap your arms up and down. But yeah, I'm gonna see if I can nail down a 2-inch hole saw or something that's 2 inches in diameter. Get these cut out. Try to get the speedo and the tack holes cut out. And I mean, it's gonna look kind of something. I don't know if you can see this. Actually, it's probably been out of frame the whole time. It's gonna look something like this, but these are gonna be vertical next to it, and then there's going to be a tack next to the speedometer. So that's what she's going to look like. So have a good one, guys. Take her easy. Bye.